Welcome everyone to Dragons Collective. This is the fortnightly D&D RPG variety show where a bunch of creators get together to discuss topics and, well, in this time we are looking at how to keep your players involved or immersed at the table. Is that in the storyline, in the game as a whole? Well, let's jump in and see what some creators are saying.
Hi folks, this is Andy from Potable Gaming, and this week on Dragons Collective we are talking about ways to keep your players invested. And I'm coming at this mostly from a player's perspective. I haven't actually DM'd yet. I'm working on DMing and some of that will come in here, but mostly this comes from things that I've done with great DMs that have kept me invested. So one of the first things is something I've noticed quite recently one of my DMs is doing is red herring clues. Really simple way to get people in is if you notice somebody's not fully paying attention and you know a little bit about their character or their backstory, just give them a nod and say, oh, hey, can you do something for me? So, you're in a cave, you've got a dwarf, the dwarf player on the phone. You just go, oh, hey, dude, can you roll me a stone cutting check because you're a dwarf? Oh, yeah, this is a basalt cave, like a granite cave. Okay, means nothing. Has nothing to do with the story. But you've got them invested. They've engaged in the mechanics, they've engaged in the story, they've engaged in the location. They might now be paying attention, trying to find if that has a connection, trying to find if it's a bit of fluff. Maybe there's an NPC and one of your players notices something about the way they dress that resonates with a bit of their backstory. And obviously you haven't know quite a bit about your player, but it's a really good way to keep them invested, especially if they've kind of drifted off. Another good way to do this is to sprinkle things in for your players that you know they like. Obviously, if you're following a pre-written path, it might be harder to do that. If you're writing your own, hopefully you've written that with some players in mind. Sometimes you might have written one that's just kind of for you. I know one of the things I'm planning to running has a lot of stuff that I love in it. But I'm trying to leave things open. So when I know exactly what the players are like, what kind of things they're doing, what kind of story they're hoping for or expecting, I can tweak and change it so they get more of what they want in the story. I keep them invested because it's the kind of thing they would personally have invested in without playing D&D. If that's the kind of story they like, that's the story they're going to enjoy playing with me. And a final thing is, and this is a hard one, is when you have got somebody on the line, be aware of the other people in the room. And I am guilty of this as a player. I like role-playing, and there's been moments where I've get some good role-play with the DM, and we're feeding off each other, and it's back and forth, it's really good. And everybody kind of, if they're not fully involved in that conversation or enjoying it, just kind of start tuning out. And that's awful. And I always feel bad when it happens. And a good DM is good at kind of controlling that. Spotting, oh, I've had like 5 exchanges with this one player now. I'm going to quickly throw a detail out to somebody or ask somebody else if they have anything they want to say, either as a DM or as a character. A really simple one of, is this man speak for all of you? Gets everybody back invested. And hopefully everybody's invested in enjoying the situation, but it means they get a chance to interject, they get a chance to respond, and you, as the DM, get a chance to make sure people are still fully invested in what's going on. Can be hard to do. I don't really know the best way to track that, but if you can, I think it's a great way to keep everybody invested. Anyway, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Am I off base? Do you have any ideas that I might want to take over when I start DMing? And as always, I've been Andy, and it's your round.
Hey everyone, Rick here, and folks, today's topic is all about immersion, and what better way to immerse yourself and your players than with some terrain, with some coins they can hold in their hand, with some various tokens. When this theme came up, I thought, we are playing, my group and I, Dicey Depths Adventures, a little homebrew campaign of my own. I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to show off what we've been doing. Now, I have some solo playthroughs of this game on my channel where it's easy enough to just play it with nothing more than a dry erase board, a marker, and some dice. But here's what we've done. Our combats, we do them in this area over here with the miniatures, with the tokens. It's double-sided, so for example, we might be in a dungeon, or we could flip it over, use a different mat, and start sticking some stuff out there to show that we're outdoors. And then this area, think of this like a huge 3D game board. So as a player, we might be going into town to check the message boards, pick up a quest or a bounty hunt, go to the local pond, bandit camp, chop some wood, or go hunting. Of course, who doesn't want to dive down into the depths of an old abandoned mine or a dungeon? So we'll take our figure and stick them wherever we happen to be at the time, And then once we're completing these jobs, oh, that's right, it's token time, folks. When you are harvesting crops, what better way than to actually have some crop tokens? When you are hunting for food or meat to sell in the market, tokens for that, chopping wood, mining, fishing, whatever the case may be. And then when you're selling those trade goods in the marketplace, there's nothing like the satisfying jingle of some coins to really drive home the fact that you are working for your bucks and buying equipment based on exactly what you have earned through the course of the game. So again, while none of this is necessary, totally pen and paper it if you want. But I mean, when it comes right down to it, I just absolutely love the look of some fantastic terrain. These are from several different manufacturers, and you can swap them out. Do a small village scenario one day, a huge walled city the next, maybe a river instead of a pond. Whatever the case may be, there's so much terrain out there that you can either make yourself, 3D print, DIY, or if you're like me, pre-painted. Everything here was pre-painted. I absolutely love it. Folks, thank you all so much for watching. I hope this gave you at least some inspiration, and until next time.
What is the best way to keep our players involved in the game? Well, it's to involve them. A lot of the times when we are running our games, we think of the vivid imagery that we expound upon our players. We think about all these great monologues that all the NPCs are going to show off to the players. We think about so many in-world, in-game things, but the thing to consider is the more time that we spend on talking about these things, the less time the players get to actually play in the game. If for every one action the players take, they get a very long-winded response, the more time that passes in between their actions, the less immersed and involved they're going to be, unfortunately. So, I think the easiest and simplest way to go about it is if they have one action, there is an immediate reaction, and you move on to the next thing. After you explain what's going on in the room that they just entered, then you ask them, what do you wish to do? And as they look around, then they point out one thing. Okay, you touch the button. This immediately happens. What do you do next? Just keep the ball rolling. Keep it moving. Not all the time do you need to have a grand, elaborate response. A lot of the times you can simply just have the game keep going with them constantly bumbling forward. In fact, it's going to reward the people that want to actually get something accomplished. Of course, you could have a group that simply likes to slow down the rolls and take their time and see what's going on, which is fine. That means they're immersed in it. But for the people that want to get the game going in their eyes, then you need to just have it going. Don't slow down, just keep it going, just work off the cuff as it were, and just roll with the punches, because it's going to be a back and forth thing. You immediately have a reaction for their action, and then they have an action for your reaction. And it just keeps on going and going, building up momentum, and it's going to get them into a whole bunch of crazy situations. You're going to have to be coming up with crazy stuff on the fly. They're going to have to be coming up with crazy stuff on the fly. And it's just going to lead to a fun experience.
Hi guys, it's Annie here from Lost in Board Games. It is very nice to see you all. It's my first time on Dragons Collective and I'm super excited. Today's topic is how to keep your players involved. Well, about that I can just give you a couple of tips. For starters, you have to think about your storyline. Where does it start? Where does it go? How does it follow? Keep your players excited to go find the next piece, to find the next location, to find the next person that they have to speak to. Keep their excitement up. Another point that I could give you is about the NPCs that you have, like the non-player characters. Try to give them NPCs that could do different things about them. Like they could maybe help them, they can accompany them to a certain point, or they can just betray them. Another thing that also can be very interesting is look at your player characters' backgrounds. It is very important for you as a DM to be aware, where are these characters coming from? What are their purposes? Why are they there? what are they doing? Do they want to achieve power? Do they want to have glory? Do they want to get a big treasure? And try to involve their backstories in your quests. Like, for example, let's say that one of your characters is going to look to be the one ultimate lord. Well, okay, he's seeking power. Give him a quest that is going to make him feel this. You know what I mean? As well, try to be creative. The more you are creative, it's the better. The more you involve your players in the story, like it's not just going from point A to point B. They're just there's something happening in between. This is how your players are going to be always involved and happy. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope to see you soon, and I wish you a good day. Bye!
I think we should be clear that it's not necessarily easy to always be immersed or to be involved. There's things outside of your game control, there's sometimes you have to miss a session. I personally do find it hard to, in that next session, get re-immersed and re-involved if I've missed out because I've missed a chunk of the story. Now, if there's a good DM, maybe they've kept some notes for you and they can sort of catch you up beforehand. But, you've still got to put in some work as a player. As Rick's pointed out, in terms of being immersed, I also agree, terrain, 3D terrain, whether it's printed or whatever, is a really good way to go. It's not cheap though. For instance, and this was kind of pointed out to me, I hadn't really calculated it before then, my last Warlock Tiles Build of the Month video. Well, I kind of went slightly all out on that in using multiple sets and stuff like that. And, well, actually, I didn't realise the price tag of the build really added up. Of course, it's all reusable and stuff like that, but I used nearly £500, it's $500–600 worth of Warlock tiles and accessories. That's a lot of money. Now, you could easily have removed a set and just removed some tiles and pretty much got the same thing, maybe remove some accessories, again, getting kind of similar to drop that price tag, but that's still not affordable to a lot of people. Now, because of that, I was thinking, well, what can I suggest? I don't want to always suggest something like terrain, because while it works for me, maybe it's not for everyone, and it is not maybe affordable for everyone. But I think one thing that is music. Now, you can get this just on a YouTube playlist or, a free version of Spotify or something like that. You don't even need like Spotify Premium. But you can easily put on what I like, background music, some sort of, generally not with words, but sort of just backgroundy sort of music. You can ramp it up when you get near a battle. You can put something with a bit more heaviness on when you're going through like a cave and there's going to be a big baddie. Or you can just have it rumbling in the background when the players are exploring. And it's a way of taking just a little bit out of the imagination. You don't need to imagine that. You've got a bit of a sound going. But anyway, music is, for me, I think a good way just to set a background tone, and it can be free. So that's my way of keeping some people sort of that little bit extra immersed at the table. Well, that's enough of my face for a little bit. On to the next creator.
Come on in, everyone. It's just loads of books and rugs in here. Books? Oh, awesome. Maybe there's something for me to read. This carpet looks interesting. Maybe it's if I can just get the right word and, oh, haha, perfect. How's that one? Not so much. Hello everyone, it's Clara. So today I'm going to be showing you how to make a flying carpet or rug of smothering. Yes, that's right. So last week I showed you how to make a gelatinous cube, and I think that was probably going to be the cheapest of my builds. But this today is probably going to be the simplest of my builds. So let's just head to the table and I'll show you how I did it, shall we? Online, basically you can get these little rugs. They're for doll houses. Now, some of them are coming from overseas, so it can take a long time to arrive. But yeah, I got like a pack of 4 of these for a couple of pounds, a couple of dollars, including shipping. And they're ideal for this purpose, but you've got to cut them down to size. So the first thing to do is decide what sort of size you want. I used a map board to decide. And I cut them down, but then cut them a little bit longer at the ends. And what you can do is you can just unpick, use like a cocktail stick, and you can just fray the ends, and it gives it this really good sort of finish for the sides. Do it longer than you need, and then cut it down rather than trying to do it exact. Then just to give the whole carpet, because this will be either a flying carpet or a model, so I covered it with PVA glue, just a layer of that, let it dry, and that'll, you know, cause it to stiffen up a little bit. For the rug of smothering, you're going to need something to get it to move at the angles you want. I've got this thin modelling wire, it was only cheap, and I cut 4 lengths of this and I glued them down. PVA won't really stick it, so I'm using super glue here with an accelerant just to stick the edges down, and that'll do the job. Then what you want to do is so rugs, admittedly rugs, usually the bottom is not the same as the top in terms of, you know, it'll be the weave underneath, but I think that for a rug of smothering it looks better if you've actually got, you know, 2 top rugs stuck together and it hides the thing. So that's what I did. Now you'll be going, Clara, why have you used a green rug on one side and a blue rug on the other side? Well, that's because some idiot, i.e. me, I accidentally cut the second rug, which was identical, too short. So I had to use a different one, but never mind. So the way that I dealt with that was that I used this light green one on the bottom, and then I used a red wash, stained it pretty close to the colour that I used on the other side. So it was kind of lucky, but we all make mistakes. Okay, then for your flying carpet, so remember that they're not that stiff because we've not really stiffened them up all that much, so you might want to put them on a base. But there you have it, nice, quick, simple, and yeah, until next time, take care and bye-bye.
Hello Collective, it's the Drunken Kobold here. I was going to sit this tips video out because I am tripodless until Tuesday, but right now I am sitting in a Dungeons & Dragons game online where I am feeling a huge lack of immersion, and so are several of the other players in the game. So I'm going to explain to you our experience and get my tips out of this. So the first tip is be prepared. Nothing breaks immersion like an unprepared dungeon master. Right now, our dungeon master is not prepared at all. He doesn't know how to use the VTT that we're using, even to its basic ability, let alone its full potential. And his maps aren't loaded or anything like that, so he's constantly having to search his computer for where he put that map because they're not kept in a nice little folder. He's very, very disorganized, and the session is not prepared. So there is a lot of time between setting up scenes where the players are just sitting back and talking rather than playing the game, and it definitely breaks our immersion from the game. The second problem is the fact that the party is right now split, so a couple of the players are getting all the focus while the other players are left out. And that breaks immersion for the players who are left out, because right now we have 3 players that the entire session pretty much is focused on. It's right now 6:20. I haven't had a turn since 4 o'clock. So, and you know, the people that are in my part of the campaign, there are 2 others of us there. They haven't had a turn either, so we're just kind of sit back listening to these people, you know, role play, have encounters and all that, and the Dungeon Master's kind of leaving us behind because he didn't have content ready for us and we dealt with our encounter in 3 turns. So yeah, no, it's very, very frustrating for your players when there's nothing for them to be engaged in the game with. So the second tip is engage your players equally. I hope I get another turn tonight. If not, I'll just sit back and listen to these players talk to their new baby pet dragon and see how that goes, and hopefully have a better game next week. But I will see all the collective in the next video when I am a bit more prepared with better equipment. Have a good one, guys.
So we did a couple of polls this week on Twitter and also on the Don't Be Bored Discord channel, and of course you can join that. Link will be in the description. The first question I asked was, when it comes to D&D or Pathfinder miniatures, do you prefer them to be A, painted, B, unpainted, or C, no minis at all? Well, I think it's fair to say with 54% of the vote that most people seem to want unpainted miniatures to actually be able to paint them up themselves. I just wish I was that good at painting. I go for pre-painted myself. The next question, which was a bit more of a fun one, was which has the coolest single dragon? And we're going to ignore the fact that Game of Thrones has wyverns, not dragons, for this question. Was it A, D&D/Pathfinder, B, Lord of the Rings, C, Harry Potter, or D, Game of Thrones? I think there's no surprise that D&D won with just under 60% of the vote, but Lord of the Rings coming in at 24% was, pretty good runner-up too. Harry Potter way down with only 3.4% of the vote, had one vote out of all of them. Well, that's the polls for this week. Now on to the news. Okay, and the news for this week. Well, first of all, we've got a couple of bits that aren't D&D but are RPG related. Now, I'm a huge fan of Avatar, not the blue people, The Last Airbender. And to be fair, The Legend of Korra is also worth a watch. Now, if you're a fan of Avatar, there is going to be an Avatar Legends role-playing game. It's being kickstarted at the moment, so I have no idea if it's any good, but it certainly looks good. I am on the cusp of backing it myself. It looks like it's got various ages, so you've got like the age of Aang, the age of Korra, and it looks like 3 other Avatar eras as well. I like the idea, the fact that you're going to be playing as, sounds like you can play as characters that aren't the Avatar you're playing as just a random bender, a random earthbender, for instance, or potentially someone that's just skilled with technology and stuff like that, which kind of came in from the Legend of Korra era. So I'm very much almost about to back this. I've just not quite pulled the trigger yet. The next thing I've said about the Humble Bundle before, well, they have just had recently, like a month ago, they had Pathfinder, and now they are doing a Starfinder, not quite campaign, basically for the next so many days, and basically for that long you can go on there, pay a certain amount and get an absolute ton of Starfinder content. Now, I've always kind of shied away from Starfinder. I like the idea of Pathfinder in terms of its fantasy still. I feel like maybe one day I will give Starfinder a go. Let me know in the comment section below if I'm missing out because I've not tried it. Another Kickstarter sort of to tell you about if you've not seen Gallant Goblin's video on it already, Modular Realms is doing magnetic modular 3D tiles. Now, as I sort of said earlier, yes, 3D terrain can cost a little bit, so it's not for everyone. But this looks like another option from like Warlock tiles or Dwarven Forge and stuff like that. It mostly doesn't come pre-painted, which for me, as I don't paint well, it maybe isn't 100% for me, but it might be for you. Basically, it's got 4 different patterns on the tiles you can get. You can get like wooden tiles, you can get on the reverse, then like a cracked stone floor and stuff. And as the name suggests, the magnetic part works in terms of you can stack them up for staircases or put like little clip bits on the side for walls and stuff. It looks really good, certainly when painted, so if you can paint, maybe this is one for you. And there is also a tier sort of further down in terms of, or further up in terms of cost, that you can actually get it pre-painted for you by a painter they've got. So that's maybe another one to check out. As I said last time, WizKids are not stopping with their Critical Role minis, and they've just announced 2 more, and these look pretty epic, premium figures. So these are the bigger, more expensive ones. Now, the names of those are Dita and Ember Rock. The Dragon Turtle is priced at $79.99, that's US dollars, with the Ember Rock priced at $89.99, again US dollars. And they are currently scheduled for a Q4 release. I think WizKids has sort of pushed a few things back and sort of moved stuff around, so maybe it will just creep into Q1 and stuff like that, but that's at the moment where they're aiming for. And last but not least, Paizo has announced a new adventure book for Pathfinder 2e, and this is going to be called Night of the Grey Death. Now, this sounds very much like a gothic horror style book, maybe, you know, to capture on some of those Curse of Strahd vibes that's sort of been coming out from D&D, Wizards of the Coast. So I think, you know, having a sort of a similar adventure coming out kind of near the same time when they just re-released Curse of Strahd, well, you know, it's not a bad thing. It will sort of maybe allow people to get both and mix and match and stuff, because let's be honest, it's your world, your story. If you want to take a bit from there and a bit from there, you can. Anyway, that's enough of the news. Let's crack on with some more creator clips.
Hey everyone, DoubleCritFail here, and I'm happy to be part of this episode of the Dragon Collective. For those of you who don't know me, I make animated D&D lore videos and DM tips that feature pieces of art such as this one, the cover of the 5th edition Monster Manual. So, I'll play that in the background as I share with you my advice on keeping players engaged. When it comes to keeping PCs immersed, I think it comes down really to one thing, and that is, make your players the center of attention. It sounds simple, but sometimes as DMs we get really wrapped up in the details of our own plot and world building, and we forget that players come to the table for one reason. They want their characters to do awesome things. So when I'm planning adventures, I review my player character sheets and try to pull locations, NPCs, and villains from their backstories. And if at all possible, I make those part of the adventure. Maybe their hometown comes under threat. Maybe they come face to face with the BBEG who killed their family. That way, each adventure feels catered to them. Because it is. Similarly, I always try to keep in mind my PC's classes and abilities when planning between sessions. Then, I balance adventures so each player has a moment to shine. Have a rogue, then include locks, traps, and stealth. Have a wizard, then add in challenges that can only be solved through magical means. Put in social interactions for your high charisma bard. Add in combat for your barbarians and fighters. Try to create a variety of obstacles in which each PC gets a chance to be the hero for that moment. This gives the added benefit of keeping your adventures fresh and from becoming too monotonous or predictable. So there you have it, my advice on how to keep players engaged. Thank you to Don't Be Bored for including me in this collaboration. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.
Hey everybody, Rivers here from Rivers RPG channel, and today I want to answer a question from the Dragons Collective on how to keep players involved or engaged. I run sessions with up to 11 players for PCs, and I try to keep everyone involved by using their backstory, not all at once, but I try to, through different sessions, I try to get everybody's backstory involved into the storyline of the campaign. And then I like to go around the table during the game, if they're in combat or out of combat, if they're doing role playing. I like to go around the table and ask them what they want to do, and each person specifically I will ask them what they want to do and how they want to interact with the NPCs or whatever, or however they want to handle the situation. That way everybody stays involved, and even the shy people can get a chance to speak. Because if you just leave it to the loudest at the table, it's going to run rampant, and it's going to be a one-on-one session, and you don't want that. Especially with, you got 8, 9, 10, 11 people. So you got to go around the table and specifically ask each person what they want to do at that situation, and then start playing it out. Whether you got 3 people going to a shop, 2 people going to a church or whatever, and the rest of them are going to the inn or whatever. So you kind of role play everything out in groups. If they all want to go to stay together, that's great. If not, then you go ahead and you take 2 or 3 at a time, however many split up, and you try and give everybody the same amount of time, equal time, to speak and role play, and everybody stays involved in the game. And that's the same thing with the combat. I go around, you do the initiative order, so that's the same thing out of combat though. Everybody gets a chance, so you keep them involved, keep them engaged, and I try to stay in character for the NPCs too, so that's the other thing. But I'm Rivers from Rivers RPG. Have a good game.
What is up? My name is Matthew McCack from Room 51, and I am super excited to be here for another week of Dragons Collective. I'm going to be sticking with the theme this week of how to keep players engaged. I'm going to give one tip because I'm sure you're getting a lot of tips from this episode, and there's tons of tips all over the internet. But one of the things I want to say before I give that tip is that it is a two-way street. So this is about players as well. Players also need to contribute to being engaged, right? If you're not listening, why are you playing, right? Like, you have to meet the DM halfway there, right? The DM can't possibly do everything, and you as a DM shouldn't have to feel that way, that like you're a failure, or that you have to do everything and like shout and do all these crazy shenanigans just to keep your players engaged. So with that out of the way, here is my tip. Definitely use their backstories. I'm talking about spotlighting characters. You see this a lot in like TV shows where like there's certain characters that are just getting a little bit more attention that episode. We're learning a little bit more about them. I think that keeps players super engaged, where they feel like, yeah, I'm important, like what I do in this world matters, and my backstory matters, and I'm like the star of this episode today, because that's what I like to think of D&D as, kind of like an episodic show that you're doing. So if you give players that opportunity to feel like they're shining that episode, that is awesome. And make sure to like spread the love, right? Like, don't make the entire episode or session solely based around that one character, but they're sort of like, their story is the main focus a little bit in that episode. And then share the love between all of your players for each of the weeks. That way they all feel super engaged. That is just one way, by the way, on how to engage your players. Anyway, that is it for this week. Thank you so much for watching. I will catch you next time.
And well, that wraps us up today. I hope you've enjoyed the show. I hope you've learned some logics of how you could keep your players involved and immersed at the table. If you've got any others that we didn't say, well, mention them down in the comment section below, or join the Discord and tell us there, because there's a lot of us there that chat and stuff around D&D and board games, so you can come and join us there. The link will be in the description box below for that. Make sure you check out all of the creators involved. Again, their details will be in the description box under their timestamps, so you can go to their channels and check them out. You really should. They put out a lot of awesome content. And, well, until next time, I'm Oliver East, signing out.